Hello, hello, hello. This is Charles Fockaert on November 21st, 2017. This is number 36 in the series On the Road with Charles Fockaert. And I welcome everyone. Thank you for supporting this channel in the many ways that you do. And yesterday was Monday. Yes, it was. It was Monday. And on Sunday, I went hiking up in the Valley of the Fire, and I did a video on that. So if you want to know about the Valley of the Fire, my time there, that's the video to watch. But this video is not on that. This video is on Monday, on what happened Monday. So I get up Monday morning. I'm all ready to go. I spent about 2 weeks here in a couple days, and I said, well, time to move on. I want to get down to Arizona, I think. And so I start putting everything away. Put away the battery charger. Put away everything in here so that when I'm driving down the road, it doesn't end up on the floor. Brake. Secure everything. Put away the propane tank. Just start putting it away. Taking my time. No hurry. And relax. I don't want to get stressed out on this trip, so I'm relaxing. I'm just taking, like I say, my time. And I jump in the cab when I got her all secure and all put away. And remember, I got a new battery in there, so I put the key in and I start her up, and at 925 cranks, just turn that engine over, and it starts up right away. No problem. So I let her warm up a little bit. Everything's been working pretty good. That new battery helped because there's a solenoid here that battery charges a solenoid, and it connects the electrical system and the battery system, and everything's been working good. The heater's been working good on battery and electric. The battery charger with the generator has been working on the batteries, keeping them charged up. Everything's been working just fine, cool. Everything, it's been a good few days. And then I noticed in the middle of the dashboard there, I'd never seen that light come on before, and it says brakes, red light in brakes. I put my foot on the brake, and guess what? Well, I was told by somebody not to worry about the brakes. That's just probably a small leak in the cylinder, and that could go on for a long time. And as long as it's not losing a lot of fluid, you're good. So I push on the brake again, and no brakes. So I got a problem. I turn the engine off. And I go open the hood up, and guess what? All the brake fluid in the rear reservoir down, and it's below the level, so it's bringing air in. So now I got air in the line for the first time. I'm pumping, and I can't get nothing. So, so much for leaving now on Monday, hey? So I realized, it's probably time to fix that rear cylinder. So I go down to the local Napa Auto Parts. I told them I was going to be leaving, and I walk in the door there, and they go, "Hey, you're back." Yeah, I'm back. Hi. The guy's pretty good down there. The owner of that little Napa store here, the Auto Parts, is a pretty sharp guy. He knows quite a bit about automotive. So anyway, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it right. I'm going to buy all the tools because there's a lot of work. Here's what I got to do. Let me give you a picture here. So I took this picture so I can remember where all the parts go. It's not that difficult, but see, it's hard to get to. But these mechanics, they work on this on a rack, and they pick that thing up. They pick up the RV, and they have it up there at eyeball height, or at a height that's easy to work on. But I got to scrunch down underneath the shell, and I'm on the gravel. You can see the gravel back here, and I don't have a jack. I have a hydraulic jack to pick the vehicle up, but I don't have any jack stands to hold this vehicle up. So I got to be careful, because if that oil in that jack stand lets go, this thing's going to be, going to drop down a few inches at least to the level of the jack. So I take my time and I jack up the vehicle carefully from the backside, and I crawling around underneath there, and I'm no young buck anymore. So this is all, anyway, here's the problem. You can see this, there's leaking right here, right out of that cylinder in the rear, and it's leaking down, and it's getting all over the shoes, all over inside, all over the drum. So this is the part I got to replace. Now you got to remember, now this thing is 40 years old. So I had to remove those 8 lug bolts holding on those 2 tires in the back, and I thank goodness, and this is where all your prayers come in. Now, a lot of people think prayer doesn't work, and I'm here to tell you it does work. And hopefully I'll remember all the little details here that how prayer works. When I was up in Provo getting those new tires put on, those guys were cranking those up to I think 160 foot-pounds and everything, and I said, hey young buck there, I got to take these off my hand, so why don't we check that and see if that's how hard they need to be. Anyway, he reduced it down, I think, to 125, because that's what the spec called for. Thank goodness, because I had to take those all off by hand yesterday, 8 bolts. Now, that don't sound too difficult for you young bucks, but everything on my body hurts this morning. Anyway, I got those tires off, and then I got, you have to pull the axle out. And that wasn't too hard. I pulled the axle out, and I put that on top of the tire, not to get it all full of dirt and stuff in there. And then I started taking everything apart. But before I did that, I was at the auto parts, and I had to buy the spring tool and the retainer spring tool, putting down the money, buying this. I want to be able to do this and get it done right, and so I don't care. I would have to pay a mechanic to do this. It cost me a lot more money. Anyway, I bought all the tools I think are necessary for this job, so I start taking everything apart. And I get down to these 4 bolts. And it wasn't easy. There's a lot, it's not easy getting all this stuff off, even if you got all the right tools. So I get down to these last 4 bolts here, folks. Well, before we go there, I got to show you this. This is the part I got to replace. This is the part. And it's leaking. When you're looking at it, it's leaking right here. So now I got the guy up here, the watchman up here at this little power plant up here, and he's going to come down here when I need him to help me pump the brakes and get the fluid out. If you haven't done this before, this is where you release the air. This is where you connect the brake fluid to, and these are the 2 bolts that are holding this thing to the mounting plate. And there's no room, because the leaf spring is right here, and I don't want sticking my head in there so I'm going to take the mounting plate off. I have to take the mounting plate off. So let me show you that again. This little thing here, this little cable, is the one that hooks up to your parking brake, and you pull on your parking brake, it pushes the brake shoes apart against the drum, and you have a parking brake, and hopefully your vehicle doesn't go anywhere. Well, this little booger right there, boy, and there's 2 nuts here. See that nut there? And there's one underneath that I had to take out. And anyway, so I couldn't do it there. So I realized I got to take these 4 bolts off. 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts, and they're rusted. They're 40 years of rust on there, and they're telling me, Charles, you're not getting us out. And I don't have any breaker bars like I would up in Kalispell. I got a breaker bar, a long pipe that I can put on the end of a wrench, and I'm trying to get underneath there. And I'm tired by this time. Everything on me hurts, and I just don't have the strength anymore to get those rusted 4 bolts out. And so I'm at the end of my rope, and I'm sitting there going, now what am I going to do? I'm going to have to go find some young buck, come up here and take those 4 bolts off for me. And then I remembered something. Then I remembered I brought along this portable like an impact wrench, 1/2 inch. Aha! I'm going to show them 4 bolts who's stronger than they are. So I got them 4 bolts off with this puppy right here, baby. I plugged this thing into the generator, charged it right up. And those 4 bolts came out like nothing. But that ain't the end of the story. Nope, not by a long shot. So once I had the backing plate apart, the 4 bolts loose, I was able to get this little bugger here separated, and I was able to pull that backing plate away from the, I don't know what you call that, holds that on there, and I had access to the back, so I was able to remove the brake line without too much trouble. That was a little trouble because you can't see back in there, and I had to, you know, blah blah blah. I got it out. Okay, so now I got the backing plate out, and I had to undo these 2 bolts to move everything out. So now I got the backing plate out, and like I showed you, there's those 2 bolts here that are holding the cylinder to the backing plate. Well, I used the old trusty impact wrench here, and I got the one side out. So now, folks, we're on the last bolt for me in victory. And guess what? That SOB rounded. It rounded off. It's rusted on there. So I got a problem. So it's only about 3:30. So I jump in the truck. And thank goodness I got the truck, right? Because if I don't have the truck, now what do? I'm going to have to walk into town 6 miles to get what I need done. I go to the local mechanic, and guess what? He went home early. So this morning, I'm hoping to drive down there and have him put this thing in the vise, and one way or the other, we're going to get that rusted bolt out. And you know what? These things are made in Mexico now, or China. I think this one's, I don't know, it doesn't even say on here anymore. Everything else in the bearings and stuff, I checked the bearings, are made in the USA. Today, folks, everything you buy is made in China or Mexico. And that sucks, because that didn't even include these new bolts. I had to buy these new bolts separate. Now, can I be frank? Who the hell thinks you're going to be able to use the old bolts that are 40 years old to hold that thing, brake cylinder on the backing plate? And they don't include it. See, an American guy would have said, hey, they need 2 bolts. Come on, they're like, what, 3 cents a piece and a couple of lock washers. Anyway, that's the world we live in, 3rd world country. And you multiply those mistakes all over the country, folks, and they're going to get bigger. The mistakes are going to get bigger. And I'm going to go into town this morning. Hopefully the guy will be able to take that bolt off, and I'll be able to put this thing back together. I had to buy a C-clamp because I got 1,400 C-clamps up there in Kalispell, but I don't have a C-clamp because I got to hold this together while we pump it, while the brake fluid's in there. Hold it so it doesn't squirt out. This is what, if you don't know about brake job, this is where you put a little pin here, and the pins push the shoes apart as you push on the brake. Very ingenious. Sure, good thing them the Negroid race came up with the automobile, isn't it, folks? And all these little innovations and inventions. Thank goodness for the Negroid race. So I'm thinking I better do the other side at the same time. There's no hurry to get out of here. It's not snow. You know what? There's a lot. Oh, the prayers. Before I forget, the prayers. You know, I could have left this back up in Montana, but I didn't. The Lord knew I was going to need it, and He answered your prayers before you even prayed them. And there was a couple other things. Let me pause this thing, have a sip of coffee, and think about the other little things about how prayer works. Hold on. Oh yeah, I went down to the other mechanic place because I thought, well, I'm going to fix this brake job, do my own brake job, and then have a mechanic check it over. So I went down to where I think they would do a pretty good job. They have the bigger equipment, and I got down there and I was telling one of the guys, I'm whining about my brake job, and he says, oh, hey, I know a guy that was staying up at the Mesa with a 1962 bread truck, and he left town here yesterday, and guess where he's stuck? He's stuck in Echo Bay. Echo Bay is over by Lake Mead. So he's got a problem he's got to fix on his truck, but he's got to drive from Echo Bay, and he don't have a vehicle. He don't have a Toyota like I do. So God, Yahweh, made this brake, that's pretty cool, breakdown, the brake system breakdown right here. I didn't have to move, and I could have been on some hill somewhere, going down the hill with my Toyota behind me, and all of a sudden, no brakes. No brakes. Now that would not be cool. And you people would say, well, I've been praying for you, Charles, but God didn't answer your prayer. Well, guess what? He answered our prayer, folks. I was stuck right here, no brakes. And, I'm not the brightest bulb in the chandelier, but I figure I better fix that. So I started fixing it, and I think I'm going to fix the other side, as difficult as it is, because they come in a pair. So that side's out, probably this side's out. While I was doing this, I put in a new rear seal, and the other side was already done. And here's another answer prayer. When I bought this thing, I crawled underneath there, and I noticed the rear wheel seal on the driver's side was leaking. So I had to say, I can't let it go. I replaced that wheel seal. I had to pull everything out on the driver's side, just like I did on the right side, on the passenger side. But I didn't have to fix the brakes because nothing was wrong at that time. Well, guess what? Next door, where I was living there in Summers, there was a guy working on the house doing some drywall work, and so I walked over there just to be friendly. Hey, buddy, how you doing? And I'll swap you what I'm doing for what you're doing. And he laughed, and he came over, and he looked at it, and guess what? He was what they call a wrench for, I don't know, I think he said 18 years. So he was giving me some pointers on what I needed to look for and how to put everything all back together. There's a series of rings and I don't know why. Not enough coffee this morning, I guess. There's a whole series of heck, I figure I might as well show you. I went outside there and got them. This is what I'm talking about. There's this key that fits in there and holds parts in it correctly. This is the nut special tool needed, and I'll talk about that in the next video if I don't forget. This is the little notched, I don't know what you call that, but that's the knots, fits in there and holds it all together. You got to tighten that up, and you got to have this special tool, folks. And I don't want to go out there and get it because it's a lot of work to get it out of the truck, and I'll talk about it in the next video. But that's another answer to prayer for all you people that think prayer doesn't work. Nuts and tangs and stuff you put in to hold the axle in, which holds the drum in, which holds the wheel, the base for the where you put your new tires on. And so he told me how to do all that. So when I took it apart, man, I was very careful to put it all back and lay it all out so that when I put it back together, it's all in the proper order. And I looked at the bearings, made in USA. Those bearings are still good after 40 years. So that's another answer to prayer. That guy just happened to be there on that day working on the drywall. I just happened to walk over there and talk to him. He just happened to be a mechanic. He just happens to come over and be willing to give me some advice, folks. And that's how prayer works. This could have been, I could have been stuck in the middle of Timbuktu somewhere, and this could have been a lot worse. So this is the day the Lord has made. Let us be glad and rejoice in it. And it sure is good to be alive. And this is the first time I think I've ever done a mechanic's job where I was actually glad I had to do it. So thank you for, and Barry White said he prayed about the hazard lights. On the other video I showed you, I told you how I fixed the hazard. There was a short going over the top of the frame, and it rubbed it, an intermittent short, and every time you jump a bump it hit, and I fixed that. Barry White, thank you for praying. I tell you, folks, prayer works. You got to keep sin out of your life. You can't be involved in wrongdoing and doing your own thing. You can't have the hidden porno on your hard drive, and you can't be thinking about going to the Vegas casino and gambling and all this other distractions and diversions. Keep all that stuff out of your life. Look around you and enjoy the world around you. The watchman up here says he can't believe how everybody's got their nose in the phone, all these young people. Nobody knows how to talk to anybody anymore, but I digress. So there's probably some other stuff I could put in here, but it's long enough already. Thank you for the patience of watching the entire video. So today I'm Mr. Brake Man, and I'm going to be working on the brakes. I'm going to do the other side, I think, while I'm here. It's not snowing, it's not raining, it's not too hot. I'm going to get her done. I don't have to think about brakes for a while, right? So then we can move on to the next issue. May the grace of God our Father, who answers prayer, may his grace be upon us all, for we certainly need it. See ya.
You can't stop the sun from shining. You can't stop the moon from its glow. I can't stop the way I feel about you. You can't stop the rain from falling. You can't stop the river from its flow. I can't stop the way I feel about you. Baby, close your eyes, feel me there beside